So now to analyze the article. I thought some of the strengths of the article included the fact that it was written in a very clear and concise fashion, and that the biological principles were quite comprehensible. I also really enjoyed the way that it was written, and that when you went through the article, it became more and more clear to the reader that it's really not as simple as one would have thought to answer the question of when aging begins, and so the reader starts to question some of his preconceived notions about the aging process. Now, a word about preconceived notions as an aside. Before I opened up the article that I was assigned to do, I noticed that the author's name was Hayflick, and I had remembered from biology in high school that he was the one who had discovered telomeres at the end of the chromosomes that shorten every time the cell is divided. And I figured that it's probably going to be a really long and intricate article with a lot of scientific details that I probably would not do a great job analyzing, so I was kind of nervous about it. And then when I opened it up, I saw that it was quite clear and concise, and it was written in a layman's language, so it actually worked out quite well, and I was happily surprised. But they're one of my preconceived notions about famous scientists writing complicated papers. Anyhow, back to the article. This article actually, the views expressed in the article are quite consistent with the well-known theories of its author, Leonard Hayflick. Leonard Hayflick is a widely acclaimed biogerontologist, and as we read in our Moody chapter this week, in 1961, Hayflick and his associates discovered that cells in a laboratory culture actually go through a limited number of divisions. And so this is called the Hayflick limit, and it demonstrates that somatic cells have a finite lifespan. So somatic cells are any cells in the body that are not germ cells or sperm cells, or stem cells, I'm sorry. So basically, any cell in the body actually has a limited lifespan. And so this is actually, the concept is central to understanding aging at a cellular level, because it means that the aging process is programmed directly into an organism. So, as we see in this article, Hayflick goes into the idea that the phenomenon of aging came about as a result of the human progressiveness that helped to protect humans from the elements, and so, therefore, humans are able to survive until later ages. But basically what he's saying is that aging is inevitable. If we're going to live for that long, then we're going to end up aging, and we're going to end up seeing age changes. So, furthermore, it's actually clear from his other writings that since the human lifespan is fixed at a genetic level, Hayflick considers aging to be an inevitable phenomenon. And basically he assumes that it only can be minimally influenced through interventions. So it doesn't really come as a surprise that this article is written in quite a theoretical tone, because the author doesn't really consider the topic in question to have too many practical implications. Hayflick's perspective on the inevitability of aging, and he is quite cautious and skeptical about the wishful thoughts of increasing the human lifespan or slowing the aging process. This feeling of his can be found in many of his writings. For example, in one of the other articles for this week, he actually co-authored this article, and it's called Position Statement on Human Aging, in which contemporary and futuristic anti-aging medicines and interventions are actually examined, and most of them are dismissed right away, because it looks like Hayflick is not really into these types of interventions and medicines. And again, in another article that is in the Moody chapter for this week, Why Do We Live As Long As We Do?, Hayflick actually quotes George Sacher again and says that instead of asking why we age, biogerontologists should be asking why we live as long as we do. And in that article, he actually boldly questions the judiciousness of even attempting to manipulate the process of longevity and aging. So in a similar vein, in a different article that we had for this week, LaFontaine discusses the specific concern of regenerative medicines and denounces its societal and cultural roots. So it looks like although there are scientists that are, as we read in the chapter this week, there are scientists who are all for the idea of trying to, increase the human lifespan and to slow aging. But it looks like Hayflick and some other associates of his and other scientists don't really believe that we can actually I guess, lengthen the human lifespan, and that aging processes are probably not going to be slowed too much. Although I enjoyed reading this article, I didn't think it was a particularly essential read for anyone who's trying to learn about the aging process or the biology of aging, because it really was purely theoretical in nature. It didn't have a lot of practical implications, and it did not describe studies or research in the field of biogerontology, but rather it was entirely based on one person's perception of a quite a profound and esoteric issue. So I think, I enjoyed reading it, but I don't know if I would recommend it specifically for people who are trying to learn about the process of aging. I hope you all enjoyed my presentation, and I really wish I could be there to answer your questions, but since seeing that I can't, I'm sure that Felicia will do a great job doing so. I enjoyed all of your presentations so far, and I look forward to being in touch with you again. Take care.